The Accidental Entrepreneur is brought to you with the help of our sponsor, AWeber, the world's leading small business email marketing and automation service provider. Since 1998, AWeber has helped more than 1 million small businesses and entrepreneurs through its suite of web-based email marketing, automation tools, and education. AWeber, the best option when it comes to marketing your business. The podcast is also brought to you by the Alternative Board. Since 1989, the Alternative Board, or TAB, has been one of the leading peer advisory and business coaching organizations for independent business owners and CEOs across the world. By facilitating peer advisory boards, private one-on-one coaching, and strategic planning services, TAB helps business owners improve their businesses in ways that change their lives. And be sure to connect with our affiliate sponsor, GSM Growth Agency. They're boosting e-commerce businesses to 6 and 7 figures in revenue and cover everything from ads and social media influencers to making your website better. GSM Growth Agency focuses on taking businesses from startup success to bigger success, going above and beyond to make sure growth sticks around. They're all about cool ideas, lasting partnerships, and making your mark in the e-commerce world. And be sure to support the podcast by ordering some logo merchandise from our online store. Listen to all of our sponsors' commercials later in this episode and follow their links in the show notes to learn more about their products and services.
You can customize all of that. So you have full customizability with all of that. Okay. And when it comes to the SEO side, the keywords you use are going to be within, your product titles, within the bullet points, the product description. There's a back end area where you can put more keywords that customers don't see. All of that. Okay. Yeah, exactly. All of that is what helps with your SEO on the Amazon platform and is what ranks your listings on the platform. That's a very simplified explanation of the SEO aspect, but
that's a lot of what you do, right? I mean, you work with the company to help them get all the pieces, the right pieces, so they get
exactly
sales.
And it starts with having the right list of keywords that are relevant for your product, putting them into the copy where they need to go, creating images that look good, number one, so the photography is good, but then creating graphic designed images that are calling out the main features of the product or the main solutions that the product solves for the end consumer, or the main search terms, having them overlaid on text of what the customer might be searching for. All of those are going to impact the click-through rates. They're going to impact the conversion rates, and all that's going to help you sell more of the product when people are actually coming to the page.
Right. So Amazon is almost like its own web browser. It's ranking your products, because sometimes I just had to search for an igniter button for our grill. I mean, I got like 26 of them. I don't know which is better than. I had to find one that was, the right size. I mean, that was it. So I don't know. So there's obviously an algorithm that makes one rank higher than the
exactly.
other.
And the algorithm, I mean, it's a search engine. It's like Google. Google ranks for different reasons than Amazon, though. So with Amazon, the two main ranking factors are your conversion rate. So how frequently are people coming to your page and buying the product, and the sales history? How long have you been selling? And it's specific for each individual keyword. So if we're selling, a microphone, just because it's the first thing I see in front of me. If someone searches microphone and your product shows up, they click your product and they buy your product, that's sending a relevancy signal to Amazon. And that's saying, hey, this product should rank for this keyword. And if you're consistently doing that over time, your product's going to rank higher and higher for that keyword. So,
Okay. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. We have, as always, another great guest. Mike is down in Guadalajara, but he is an American with a company overseas and companies here and all kinds of stuff. We're going to be talking about not only his background, but we'll be talking also about selling on Amazon today and how to be an Amazon seller and all the ins and outs. He consults on that and helps companies do it. So if you are listening on your favorite podcast directory and you can leave us a review, leave us a 5-star review, please. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure and subscribe and like us to help us to keep bringing the good content that we have today. So let's get on with today's show.
The information provided in these episodes is for entertainment purposes only. It is not a guarantee of success or to be construed as advice of any kind. You should always seek advice from local licensed professionals before making any decisions.
The dictionary defines an entrepreneur as a person who organizes and manages any enterprise, especially a business, usually with considerable initiative and risk. People often start a business without much choice, perhaps due to a job loss or just being dissatisfied at work, and they come up with an idea they just know can be successful. They become entrepreneurs by accident. That is to say, their success or failure happens by accident, not with intention. My name is Mitch Beinhacker. I'm a corporate attorney and a business advisor. You're listening to The Accidental Entrepreneur, my podcast about how to achieve success on purpose, not by accident. Join me along with our monthly guests, where we share our knowledge and help you get a hold of your business. And now on to today's episode.
I'm Mike Begg, the CEO of AMZ Advisors and co-founder of Go Avance, and we take brands from $1 million to $10 million a year on Amazon.
All right, Mike, can you hear me?
Mitch. Thank you for having me here.
Okay, cool. Hey, no, glad you're gonna be there. So it's like 10:30 here. Was it like 7:30?
It's 8:30 right now, actually 8:38. But yeah.
Oh, okay. It's late, right? You get started 5, 6 o'clock in the morning.
Of course, I'm already one double espresso deep, so we'll see how this goes.
There you go. Nice. All right. So why don't we start with your background. We had talked about off the mic, how you got started in business, things like that. We'll work our way up to the second half when we will talk about all the Amazon stuff.
Of course, yeah. Like so as you kind of mentioned in the intro, I'm originally from the U.S. I'm from Connecticut originally. Grew up there, spent most of my life there. Went to school in 2 different schools, one in Long Island, one in Philadelphia. Played lacrosse pretty much my entire life. I played lacrosse in college. That's why I went to these schools. And out of college, I never grew up as an entrepreneur. I never grew up having like any jobs, anything like that. I always worked in.
Right. Were you a business major in school? Or
yeah. So I was a business. I started at Stony Brook University, and I was studying business administration. That was my freshman year, and that was 2008. So that was like the middle of the financial crisis, which was an interesting time. Yeah, because a lot of the conversations that were happening around the business classes were all shifting or focusing onto this, and I didn't know what was going on. So it was a different time to be learning that type of stuff. And then I realized that I wanted to learn more than just the administration piece. I ended up transferring after my freshman year to St. Joseph's University in Philadelphia. Continued to play lacrosse there, but I double majored in economics and international relations. So it was a little bit of a different shift, but gave me more of a view of how things work, and that's something that I always find very important.
Right. Okay. So you graduated, and what happened? I mean, you didn't take a job in Guadalajara, so
it was. It's been quite a journey to get here. So I graduated 2012. The job market still wasn't great, so it took me a little while to find a job. I'm just gonna unplug my charger for a second. I'm lagging a little bit.
Yeah, the computer will fix that on the back end.
So I graduated, had a little bit of a hard time finding a job. I took a job at a law firm to start. Worked there as a law clerk for a while. That was an experience. I didn't really enjoy it. From there, I ended up going into Deloitte Consulting and worked in Deloitte. Really didn't like consulting either, so I wanted to find something different.
What kind of companies did you work with?
It was mainly retail consulting, which was kind of where I had some experience, or where I started getting into where I am now. Is like that was the root of it. And I really, the projects were cool. I just did not like working for Deloitte. I did not like the stress of it. I didn't like, traveling and dealing with angry clients. Yeah. It wasn't fun. You don't really have much control of your life in that. And
was any of e-commerce in those days? I mean, that
was in 2012. No, it was still too early. I mean, it was there, it was existing, but like most people weren't focused on it. They were focused on, their own websites or whatever, instead of like the platform aspect, which is obviously the most important thing right now.
Right. eBay.
Exactly.
All that stuff. Yeah.
So,
sure.
Yeah, that's kind of how it started. Once I realized I hated it, I started taking classes at NYU in real estate. Ended up switching over to Sears, which was another interesting experience. And during my time in Sears, I was working.
Are they even around anymore?
They're gone now, right? But this was 2015, 2014 when I made the switch, and things were still running, but like we were in trouble and we were trying to solve some of the problems. So the team I actually
Right. So NYU, you went to the graduate school. You went to the Stern School.
I went to the professional school. I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, I don't remember the name actually. It's weird, but no, I wasn't
the school where you go get, because you don't want to get your MBA. You were already business administration. You were like, I don't.
Yeah, exactly. Like I could have gone and gotten a real estate master's, or I could have just gotten the real estate certificate, which is where I started. And I was like, well, let me see how this goes, and then I'll go from there. I've always done well in school, and always like have thought about more education, whether it be law school, MBA, whatever. Fortunately, I haven't had to do that because of some of the entrepreneurial success, but we'll get to that in a little bit, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. So where are we now? So you were like, you went to Stern. I mean, you went to NYU, you're getting some classes. You're like, I don't want this corporate thing. You're at Sears. You leave them.
Yeah.
When do you like say, you know what, I'm going to start my own business or join up?
So it all started at Sears, actually. At the time, so I was working in the real estate group. We were doing real estate development projects and, disposing of assets, selling stuff off. I was managing some projects in New Jersey, actually, now that you remind me. But
yeah, so because Sears owned their own properties, right? Their locations,
yeah, they
a
did.
lot of them.
Most people don't realize is that Sears and Kmart were the same company. Exactly.
Okay.
And they both didn't do good. And Sears owned almost all the real estate. They didn't own everything, but Kmart leased everything. So you had a bunch of underperforming Kmart stores that were all leased that you had to, pay off pretty much to get out of them, or you had the assets that we could actually redevelop, which was Sears.
Right. Kmart was getting crushed by like Target and Walmart, basically, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
So anyway, one of the deals I saw that came across my plate was we got an offer at a mall that was closed. We still had a piece of land there, and the offer was from Amazon. And I was like, why is Amazon buying a retail box store at a closed mall?
And this was what year?
2000. This was late 2014, I think.
Okay, so this is very early. Like Amazon didn't have any kind of footprint on the ground.
They didn't have any physical stores. Warehouses. I mean, they had warehouses, but they didn't have any physical stores. Anyway, so yeah, I saw Amazon making this deal, and then I kept digging into it. What do you want to do here? And I found out they were turning it into a fulfillment center. They were turning it into a warehouse to send out orders.
Right.
And that's where I started paying more attention to Amazon and figuring out, e-commerce and trying to consume.
Yeah. Right. Got it. So, but you kind of learned this on your own, right? I mean, you figured it out and said, okay, what the hell is, and that was the early days. Now they have all kinds of tools, and we'll talk about those later. But this was like, could you even set up your own Amazon store, or they were just selling their own stuff?
Yeah. So when I started selling products, and I had three partners actually. We all started the same thing because we didn't know what we were doing. We originally just started going to, it's called retail arbitrage, but just going to like Walmart, Target, buying products and then selling them on Amazon, buying products that were on clearance, and then reselling them on Amazon.
Got it. Yeah, because that doesn't work if you pay retail for the products and you can't sell.
Exactly. You got to get them on clearance. That works.
Right.
And so that's how I started selling products. And then from there, we wanted to take a step further. We started making our own brand and started importing products from China.
What kind of things are you making? You're basically a retail flipper now because you're buying things low and you're flipping them before you were making your own stuff. So what kind of things were you selling? You didn't care?
I mean, it's whatever we found that we thought was going to be good. We started with the first product we ever sold on Amazon was a wireless router that we got on discount we got it for like $20 and sold it for like $80 on Amazon. So that was a solid one.
Right.
And then a lot of stuff was electronics, video games, kids' toys was another common one that we got. Some home good stuff.
But they're one-off items, right? I mean, you didn't have 300 routers and you could sell. No,
you buy whatever they have in the store. And like, there's people that make full-time living doing that. But for me, it's not enjoyable because at the end of the day, you're spending a ton of time. You're shopping, going to every store. It's brutal.
Yeah.
And the next step of that is like building your own brand or your own products. And that's where we figured out how to work with Alibaba, find manufacturers in China, figure out what types of products you want, get samples, and then start production and then start selling those. And that's
Is Alibaba like the international version of Amazon, basically, or is it a different
so
kind of a
there's
marketplace?
they have two different platforms. They have Alibaba and AliExpress. AliExpress would be like the Amazon equivalent. It would be like an international platform where you go to buy like one item. Alibaba is like the manufacturer. It's like a manufacturer directory. So you're going there to buy.
Right, where you got to buy like 10.
Exactly. You're going there to buy in bulk. And that's kind of what the difference is.
Okay.
Got it. That's how it all started. We started with art supplies, started selling those. We had some.
Now, why art
We just
supplies?
saw an opportunity there. We saw some products that we thought looked good. There's a lot of third-party research tools that you can use to see what markets are selling well and what aren't. We just happened to find one that looked really good.
Right.
It was selling, there was like over $200,000, $300,000 a month in sales in the category, and there was no one really dominating it. And we were like, okay, let's try this. And that's kind of how we got started.
So you mean you could see what was selling like on Amazon, but they were just all a lot of small sellers. So there was, and then you said, well, let's start with art supplies.
In this specific category within art supplies, there was no big brands. Like Crayola is obviously the elephant when it comes to the elephant in the room when it comes to art supplies, and they were not selling these products. So we saw who was selling the products, and we were like, we can do a better job than them. And that's really where the idea started and came from.
Okay, so what was the name of the
Crown
company?
Art was the name of the company.
Okay, and I guess the brand didn't matter. I mean, you were building it from scratch.
Exactly.
Anyway, right?
Yeah. Like the brand has some importance in a way, just with certain features of Amazon, but we just came up with the design, came up with a logo that we put on the packaging, our name, our branding and everything. You want to be different than a lot of the products that are on the marketplace or have some differentiation. Otherwise, if it's just a generic product, anyone can sell it. So that's kind of the way to build a little, it's not much, but build like a little moat there to protect your products on Amazon.
Right. No, it's good advice. So the this is all drop shipped. Like you didn't have to warehouse. Did you have to take possession of the product?
We bought.
You did.
First order was like 250 units. Then after that, we ordered like another 1,000. And when we made a couple more placement orders from there, eventually we ran into some problems with our manufacturer where they started essentially knocking off our product and selling it for cheaper.
Yeah. I have those conversations with people all the time. If you're going to be making it, let's say in China, for example, you can have all the contracts you want, but if it's going to go out the back door of the factory and somebody else is going to knock it off, what are you going to do? You're a little company.
Exactly. So that was kind of the end of Crown Art. It was like, well, this is a Chinese manufacturer. They can make whatever they want. We can't enforce anything. We don't have the money to enforce anything. So we kind of had to, that brand kind of just died out on its own, unfortunately. Just because of the manufacturing problems. Dealing, I mean, you have an understanding of it, but manufacturing in China is really a nightmare. And there's always better options that I recommend more than focusing on China.
Right. Well, people think it's inexpensive, whatever, but there's all kinds of logistics with dealing with them and knocking things off, and you don't really know what's going on. Unless you're Chinese, I guess, and you go over there and you see what's going on.
It's true.
So where'd you go from there? You made a little bit of money though, right? On your first endeavor. And then do you lick your wounds and say, okay, well, let's find another product to sell? Or like, what was the next step?
One of the learning lessons we took out of this was that when it came to selling products online, we were really good at the actual sales and marketing aspects, but where we really weren't good was the inventory management and the manufacturing and the supply chain stuff. Okay. So, understanding what our strengths were, we started looking at how can we take advantage of this. And the prime example that I've kind of already mentioned was we were in a category that is historically dominated by Crayola. And Crayola wasn't able to show up for these keywords and for the search terms that we were ranking for. So we realized that a lot of big companies don't know what they're doing when it comes to Amazon. And that's where we started transitioning to AMZ Advisors, where we are today, as an agency helping a lot of these big brands maximize their efforts on the Amazon platform. So we help them implement all the best practices, make sure everything's running smoothly, help them grow their sales, manage their advertising for them. And we've had the opportunity to work with a lot of big brands over time.
Yeah, got it. So you knew that if you had the inventory, if that was being taken care of, you could sell the crap out of this stuff. You knew how to market it and find the buyers.
Exactly. And that's what we did. We started with a pretty well-known brand called Plackers and Rembrandt Whitening. In dental supply category, we grew their sales from doing about like $100,000 to doing like $500,000 a month. We worked with some other brands like Burt's Bees, Neff Headwear, and we were successful in growing all these accounts. So like we kind of we're building that body of evidence where we know what we're doing and we know that this can work.
Got it. All right. So I'm curious because a lot of people listening, first of all, I think with Amazon, you see all these videos, you get things from people and they're like, you can be an Amazon seller, and you find a nail clipper and you can just drop ship them and promote them and you make all kinds of money. And I'm sure it's not that easy. But when you got started, when you realized what your expertise was, and you said, listen, we're not going to do it for ourselves because then we got to solve the other problem about getting the products. We're going to help other people sell their products. How did you start developing your own business? Like, how did you get the first customer you mentioned? We were pretty fortunate at the time we started. There really weren't many companies out there that were doing this. There's one company called Orca Pacific, which was one of the older ones that was on Amazon and helping people. There were a couple other smaller ones, but it was not easy for people to find these companies. So we actually got our first client through Upwork, through the freelance platform. They were going to Upwork looking for people that knew what they did. And it was actually a consultant working with them that found us and hired us. And that's how we started there with our first client. The consultant actually had a couple other clients that we ended up working with as well. And that's really where we got off the ground and running. I mean, we got to the point where our sales commissions and our service offering, we were making, I think at one point our biggest invoice was like $25,000 a month from them. And that was really what gave us the runway to get the business going. Because then we had the cash to start investing in, hiring and, building our processes, making ourselves look more legitimate than just, a couple guys on Upwork. And that was really the impetus that got us going. And, we're talking about being an accidental entrepreneur. That was one instance of just pure luck of us getting in touch with the right guy on Upwork and then working with the right client and getting the success from what we knew how to do. So it would have we like three guys coming out of nowhere working with a massive corporate company like Plackers. I mean, they're a multi-billion-dollar enterprise. There's no way we would have gotten in front of them if we tried, knocking on their door or giving them a call or anything. So of course, right. You can't just cold call them. Hey, we're three guys in a Davenport basement. Exactly. Yeah. So I'm curious because, I talk a lot on this show about, strategic planning, business planning, and figure things out. It sounds to me like you kind of figured it out as you went. I mean, you did have an undergraduate degree in administration. So did you guys do any, or do you do, business planning on a regular basis to kind of figure out, okay, where do we go next and what strategically we're doing there?
It's something that we've implemented more over the past few years. We've always kind of had a stated direction that we wanted to go in, but the tactical steps that we needed to take to get there were not always clear. Now we're much more clear when it comes from a planning perspective, not only just between us as the founders, but between the employees as well. Because when the employees have an idea of the direction that you're trying to go, it makes it a lot easier to get everyone moving in the right direction.
You want them to be on your team, buy into your vision. I think that's one of the reasons why people don't really do the kind of planning. They don't know what to put down. They're still trying to figure it out. They're still feeling their way. Unfortunately, in some cases, it might lead to failure because you don't see what's around the corner. You guys, it didn't happen. But there's somebody in the background that walked by. So I'm just always curious as to how, that kind of comes together. So then, how did you end up in Guadalajara? Did you just pick up clients that were outside of the United States?
So when we were first starting the company, we wanted to give, I said we had some clients we were making money from, but we wanted to give the company the longest runway to take off to make sure it was going to be successful. So we decided why don't, and being from, the Northeast, I think you can understand this. We hated the winter. The winters are miserably cold in Connecticut. We ski, but like there's no mountains in Connecticut. So like if I'm not skiing, I'm miserable in the winter.
Gotta go.
So we were like, let's move somewhere warm. Let's just get out of here. We ended up moving to Playa del Carmen, near Cancun. And three of us,
Three of you?
we ended up renting like a nice, like, I won't say a penthouse, but it was like a very nice apartment that we were living in. After a few months of that, we were making more and more progress, and the company was like, I won't say successful, but like stable enough for us to kind of do our own things. And I wanted to go travel. I wanted to see more of Mexico. I ended up coming to Guadalajara.
Do you speak Spanish?
I didn't speak Spanish when I first arrived. I understood it. My family is, my mom's family is Portuguese. So I always grew up with like hearing, not Spanish, but hearing a similar language. So I understood Spanish really well. I didn't speak any or spoke very little of it. So finally, once I was here, I was able to actually practice, listening and speaking. And, at this point, I've been here for 6 years and, I'm fully fluent. So.
Right. But you didn't go there because of the business opportunities. Like, there's all these companies we can work with. You work with companies all over. You do it remotely, right? You have a Zoom call or whatever. You don't
exactly.
Like,
it was more of like a lifestyle thing. We were like, where can we get somewhere where we don't have to be in the cold, where we can be near the water?
Right.
I'm not near the water now, unfortunately, but
you're a lot closer than me.
But yeah, that's kind of how it started. So it wasn't like strategic. We're going to go down here and like find companies. It was more like, let's just be somewhere where we enjoy being and we can take all of our client calls online. Got it.
Yeah, because you're probably doing your prospecting the same way in Connecticut as you were in Guadalajara. Like,
exactly.
What's the difference,
and
right?
Nothing really changed. And that was the important thing, is that we could keep everything running the same no matter where we were. And then besides Mexico, I've traveled in Europe. My other partners have traveled in Europe and South America and other places. So and
you can still just plug right
exactly.
in, right? I mean, guys can jump on a call.
The only thing that changes is the time zones. That's about it.
Right. And you got to deal with those. But, I think, Mike, and I think maybe this is the theme of this show, right, today, is that you can, if you want to, build your business and build your lifestyle pretty much any way you want. I mean, especially if you're an online seller, in your case, you're not even an online seller. You're a consultant. So you're not even dealing with products and things like that. But even the people that are, they can live wherever they want. They don't have to. It doesn't have to be outside the United States, but they certainly could be in Texas or in Nashville or Atlanta or whatever. It doesn't have to be in Maine. Although people may like Maine, and you could live in Maine and work and run your business and so forth. So why don't we do this? Why don't we take a break for commercials, a couple of minutes, and then we'll come back and we can start talking about what the Amazon platform is, what it does for businesses, the kind of advice you give. We're not giving away the store, but it's advice for small business owners as to how they get started. Because I think a lot of them, even if they are brick and mortar, they either not doing Amazon at all, or they're doing it wrong and they don't even understand it, and they just struggle with e-commerce. Because I think it really can help everybody. Does
that sounds
make
good
sense?
Here's a word from our sponsors.
Looking to market and grow your business? Or perhaps you're just getting started and want to hit the ground running? AWeber is the best choice for online email marketing and automation of your business. From maintaining a subscriber list to drip campaigns and landing pages, AWeber gives you tools and integrations that make marketing easy and fun. As our partner and sponsor, we use all their tools to promote the podcast and market our law firm. AWeber, the best alternative for online marketing. For over 30 years, the Alternative Board, or TAB, has built a thriving community of forward-thinking CEOs and business owners who want to radically improve their companies. Through unique combinations of one-on-one business coaching, participation in monthly TAB board meetings with other non-competing owners, a suite of strategic tools and customized strategic planning workshops, TAB membership can deliver greater strength to your business and a better work-life balance for you and your family. All packaged in a streamlined and affordable service that the people at TAB invite you to try risk-free. Are you struggling with managing advertising due to a lack of time or expertise? Perhaps you're facing challenges in scaling ads for your store. Are you feeling lost when strategies have no success? GSM Growth Agency is your reliable partner in overcoming these business challenges. Feel the impact of collaborating with a team dedicated not only to short-term goals, but also to building long-term partnerships and achieving sustained success. Embark on an exciting journey to redefine the possibilities of e-commerce and create a legacy of unparalleled excellence. Take decisive action now. Follow their link in the show notes to receive a complimentary audit of your Shopify store conducted by a GSM expert. Propel your e-commerce game to new heights with GSM Growth Agency. Follow the link in the show notes to learn more about all of our sponsors. And now back to our show. Okay, Mike. So I think that we can talk about the kind of advice you give, how you help people, and maybe, we can keep it on not the large corporate side, but on the small business owner side, like what kind of things people can start, where they can start learning about it and figuring out what they're doing wrong. And how would you, even if you wanted to start a business and you didn't have brick and mortar, how could you just get started on Amazon? Is that a loaded question?
No. I mean, the interesting thing I would say is that you're saying, you asked not the corporate advice, but like smaller business. It's the same advice. It's essentially the same. Like at the beginning of the day, if you're not doing the fundamentals on the platform, you're not going to have success. So someone that wants to get on Amazon, I mean, the first thing you obviously need to do is get an account. It's not that difficult. You just need a business. You need to go through a verification process. You can get an account in 24 hours as long as you have not opened an account before with Amazon, a seller account, I should say.
That's a different account than like my account where I have Prime and I buy stuff, right? It's a business account.
Yeah, you could use the same email technically if you wanted to. I always recommend using different ones, one for the business, because that will, if you ever sell the business in the future, for example, or sell the account in the future, and it's tied to your personal email, well, there goes your personal email as well. So anyway,
exactly.
From that as a starting point, it's pretty simple. A lot of the challenges that smaller businesses run into is that, or brick and mortar businesses that are not selling on Amazon or not selling in retail or in big retail stores,
right,
is that they don't have UPC barcodes for their products. If you don't have a GS1 UPC barcode for your product, you won't be able to list the product on Amazon. Now, there's a caveat there. There's a way around it if you have your trademarks and have a lot of IP. But as a starting point, it's always a good idea to make sure that you have the UPC barcodes. It's pretty straightforward. You have to register your business with GS1, and then from there you buy the number of barcodes you want. Like, for example, I have some products that I do sell. I think the GS1 registration, this was like 2 years ago, was like $299, and then the renewal every year is like $50. So it's not that big of an expense, but it's something you're going to need for your products to be able to list them on the Amazon platform. From there, I mean, the creation, we can, and there's whole different details we can go into here, but you just have to create your listings. You want to create the SEO content. You want to create the images for your product, make it look good on the Amazon platform, because I'm sure many of you have gone to Amazon and seen products that don't look good, or the keywords aren't good, or the copy doesn't make sense, or the images are shot in someone's basement without like professional lighting. It just doesn't look good. And if you want to sell your product on Amazon, your product needs to look good. That's probably one of the most important aspects.
Right, but how much control do you have over your listing page or your store or whatever?
So when
consider as
it's obviously not fully customizable like you could with your own Shopify store or whatever other platform. But when you look at it as a consumer from the front end of Amazon, you see the titles, you see the bullet points, the product images. You might see, it's called A+ content, the images down below the listing, or I should say down below the fold. You can customize all of that. So you have full customizability with all of that. And when it comes to the SEO side, the keywords you use are going to be within, your product titles, within the bullet points, the product description. There's a back end area where you can put more keywords that customers don't see. All of that. Okay. Yeah, exactly. All of that is what helps with your SEO on the Amazon platform and is what ranks your listings on the platform. That's a very simplified explanation of the SEO aspect, but
that's a lot of what you do, right? right? I mean, you're working with the company to help them get all the pieces, the right pieces, so they get
Yeah, exactly.
sales.
And it starts with having the right list of keywords that are relevant for your product, putting them into the copy where they need to go, creating images that look good, number one, so the photography is good, but then creating graphic designed images that are calling out the main features of the product or the main solutions that the product solves for the end consumer, or the main search terms, having them overlaid on text of what the customer might be searching for. All of those are going to impact the click-through rates. They're going to impact the conversion rates, and all that's going to help you, sell more of the product when people are actually coming to the page.
Right. So Amazon is almost like its own web browser. It's ranking your products, because sometimes you search for. I just had to search for an igniter button for our grill. I mean, I got like 26 of them. I don't know which is better than. I had to find one that was the right size. I mean, that was it. So I don't know. So there's obviously an algorithm that makes one rank higher than the
exactly.
other.
And the algorithm, I mean, it's a search engine. It's like Google. Google ranks for different reasons than Amazon, though. So with Amazon, the two main ranking factors are your conversion rate. So how frequently are people coming to your page and buying the product, and the sales history. How long have you been selling? And it's specific for each individual keyword. So if we're selling, a microphone, just because it's the first thing I see in front of me. If someone searches microphone and your product shows up, they click your product and they buy your product, that's sending a relevancy signal to Amazon. And that's saying, hey, this product should rank for this keyword. And if you're consistently doing that over time, your product's going to rank higher and higher for that keyword. So that's really where a simplified explanation of the SEO comes in. It's convert more for what the customer is searching for. You do that by creating content that's focused on the most relevant keywords for your product, and then do it over time. And that's how you're going to grow on the platform.
Got it. Yeah, microphone's a good example. I mean, I've searched for podcast equipment before, and you get tons of stuff, combinations of things. And this company, I never heard of these companies. Now, if it's like a Snowball or a Yeti, a Blue Yeti, then you know it. But even those are sold by different companies, not manufacturer, but the retailer, basically.
Exactly. You can have multiple sellers of the same product. I mean, I'm using a Blue Yeti right here, and I don't know exactly who I bought it from, but I bought the brand. So, for example, as a seller, and this is if you don't want to have your own products or create your own brands, you could be a reseller. Yeah, you could sell brands like this.
Yeah. So then so I guess you got to source the product. You got to find them and sell them and so forth. So do you find that some, I wouldn't say retailers, some products are more amenable to the platform, or is it really just figuring out the SEO and the rankings and stuff like that? Or are there some things that really aren't meant for online?
There's definitely some things that aren't, I wouldn't say aren't meant, but the discoverability is going to be significantly lower. A good example of this is like a client we worked with recently. They sell scientific equipment, I don't even beakers. That's the only scientific equipment word I remember anymore. But that
and the Bunsen burner, remember that? You put it below the beaker and you heat up the stuff. Right? You and I aren't scientists, but how many scientists could be going to Amazon and looking for that stuff?
They probably, I mean, it's an option, but you're competing against everyone else. I mean, these scientists, or these people looking for these products probably have a local store as well that they might be getting it from. So
you're a supplier to the university or the company.
Yeah, it's different than something like a supplement where everyone might be buying a supplement or, cosmetic product or whatever. So there's different levels of competition, different demand for products in general, like CPG goods or consumer packaged goods are sell really well on the platform. There are all types of niches that you would be surprised how well they sell. Like, for example, I have a food product brand. I sell biscotti, and biscotti is a great category. Yeah, exactly. And the funny thing is that being from the Northeast, I thought everyone knew biscotti, but apparently no one outside the Northeast knows biscotti. But
no, do they know it in Italy? They sell
I mean, they have a different name in Italy. They're called Cantucci.
Oh,
which is actually the name of the brand, but
that's a Northeast Italian cookie, basically.
Exactly. So, anyway, that there's all these little categories that you can find, and using these third-party tools, you can see what the sales look like, see how competitive it is, see whether it's worth your time to try to build a brand around it. And that's really how you can decide what works. I mean, coming in as a first-time seller or first-time entrepreneur and trying to sell protein powder on Amazon, you're going to fail. Number one, there's a ton of competition. Number two, it takes a ton of money to get on there. So I always recommend.
Yeah, and most of them, you get stuck on brands.
Exactly.
Usually, like I don't want to buy like some protein powder because it's cheap. I'm going to buy the one that I'm used to and I like the flavor of, and I stick
exactly.
with it.
That's exactly what it is, and that's how most consumers shop. So if you're going to go into a category like that, you need a ton of money. It's better to start as a seller in some of the other categories that are not as competitive.
Yeah. So that's how I start with some of these tools that'll tell me, like, what does it tell you? Like sales volume in those?
It'll tell you
categories?
Sales volume. It'll tell you, sales volume is mainly the value that it's like extrapolating for you. But you can get everything in one spot. So you search microphone, you'll see all the microphones that come up. You'll see which microphone's selling the most. You'll see, how many reviews they have, whether Amazon's selling it, because Amazon can still sell a product, or whether it's a third party selling it. All of this stuff is kind of dictate which way, whether a product category makes sense or not for you to be in.
Got it. So there is Amazon, which is their company selling their products, whether it's their branded products or the products they buy and resell. And then there's the marketplace, which is like this a virtual mall of smaller retailers that are bringing products to the platform and then reselling them and maybe competing.
Exactly.
With Amazon, right?
And it's tough to compete with Amazon. If
Amazon knows that.
If there are certain categories, and this is just like, a small tip is like, if you're doing the research and you see certain categories where Amazon is selling all the products, it's probably not a category you want to be in.
Don't do it.
Because there's no way you're going to be able to compete or break into the category. Unless you have like some crazy offline presence off of Amazon, but still it's not going to be easy. You're better off competing against other third-party sellers in categories like that. I can't think of a non-competitive category off the top of my head, but when you do the research, you'll see whether someone is selling, whether it's Amazon or whether it's someone else, and then focus on the categories where the majority of the sellers are someone else.
Right. Well, so if I'm a small business owner or I'm looking to get started in business and I'm interested in something, how do I get started? I mean, I don't have a lot of capital, right? So I can't necessarily hire you. You work with large companies, probably expensive. How do I get started?
There are a lot of great free resources out there. And honestly, at this point, there's way more free resources than when we started. The challenge is figuring out which ones are good and which ones are just garbage. There's a couple people online on YouTube, on other platforms like Facebook. There's Facebook groups where you can get advice. But there's also different levels of advice you can get. So there's the very beginner groups on Facebook. That's always a good place to start, where you can,
like,
Amazon seller groups, the Amazing Seller group, no, I can't remember the name. It's some company out in New York. I think it's the Amazing Seller.
Right. But if they do a search on Amazon, on
they'll
Facebook,
find the groups, where they can ask the advice. There's plenty of courses out there. We have our own course. But there's all types of free resources out there for people to learn from.
Right. And then they start building it from there. But a lot of it's trial and error too, right? You think you made a good decision to an analysis, then you get out and you get hammered.
And that happens more frequently than you would think. But there are plenty of even clients our size that are clients that come work with us that are a good size. They're doing maybe $100,000 or more a month in Amazon sales, and they really struggle getting to that next level because it is super competitive. It takes a lot of strategy, a lot of tactics to really break through. And like, that's where we can really provide the value, is when companies are already doing like $1 million a year on Amazon, and they just need to figure out, how do I get to 10 million, or how do I get to 20 million, or whatever it may be. And then that's where we can step in and be like, this is what's working. This is what's not working. Let's focus more on what's working and keep scaling from here.
Right. Right. Got it. Well, a lot of the companies you're dealing with, it's their own product, right? I mean, they're not buying and reselling. So if I'm looking to get started to be an Amazon seller, right? Can I do it without purchasing inventory? Like, can I Can I do it where it's purchased by the customer and then drop shipped, and I can limit my expense except setting up the
There
store
are
or
people
whatever?
that do that. So you could drop ship product technically. You could. There's another model which is essentially becoming a wholesaler, or buying the product at wholesale and then reselling it. That's another
Right.
option. It's still capital
Right.
intensive, but you're buying.
Yeah, of course. And you got to take possession of the product, right? And you got to ship it.
Well, you
Or not
can
always?
use Amazon's fulfillment network. So the Amazon,
Okay.
it's called Fulfillment by Amazon, FBA, and FBA can house all your inventory for you. You can send all the inventory there, and it'll just send out the inventory as you get orders. Obviously, Amazon is taking a fee for that, and the fee can get expensive.
Right, of course.
But then it saves you all the time.
No, but if you're warehousing, you got a fulfillment center. You might have to pay warehousing costs anyway. to
Exactly.
Have people fill it and send.
You're going to need some
easy,
type of warehouse
right?
no matter what. If you're going to be buying inventory in bulk, whether it's your own product or whether you're buying from a wholesaler or a distributor.
Right.
And it's a difference of whether you're going to house it in your own warehouse, in your garage, or at Amazon.
Now, are there products, maybe not a lot of them, that you could literally post on your store, not take possession of them, they purchase them, and then you just have the manufacturer ship them out for you? To
It
the
is
client?
possible, but
Customer?
it's very hard to find those agreements. I mean, most people have that's like the most common idea that people think. It's like, how can I do this without
Right.
putting
I
money
don't
in?
think it works.
And those opportunities have more or less gone away as more brands get more aware of what's possible as well. So when people start drop shipping a ton of their orders, it becomes, well, why don't I cut out the middleman now and just take a higher margin on it? So it's very difficult to find that type of opportunity. The wholesale distributors side, buying directly from a distributor, there's more opportunity to do that. You still need to put the cash up, or you might be able to get some terms on it. So you might be able to get net 30, net 60, depending on how well you negotiate with them and how experienced you are in doing that.
Net 60 meaning they ship you the product, you had 60 days to pay for it. So you can put it up, get orders, get it out. You might even post it before you get the product, right? It's on its way.
Yeah.
And then get it out and
and that's essentially what the wholesale distribution model plays on, is trying to time the cash flow. Amazon does the same thing with people that are selling 1P to them. They're selling directly to Amazon, and then Amazon's reselling the product. Amazon it's a different story because Amazon dictates the terms, but they dictate net 60, and they're like, all right, we'll pay you 60 days later from whatever you sell us now. So
do they pay on time? Because I know like companies like Walmart and things like that are notorious for saying, we'll pay in 60 days, then I'll pay you for 120 days, 180 days. And what are you going to do?
I would, I mean, these are always challenges. I would say Amazon more or less pays on time. There's been a few issues where we have clients that are owed like hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that's where it gets really tricky. But for the most part, it's a smooth process, and you do get paid on time.
Got it. All right. So, what do you think? Because we're past 45 minutes, so we're in the green area now. So, whatever else you want to talk about. Well, what do you think has been the biggest challenge as a small, as a business owner running your business? I mean, you have a different model, right? Because you're, virtual and all over the world and whatever. What do you think the biggest challenge is for the small business owner when it comes to, being an online e-commerce retailer?
I think the biggest challenge is not investing enough, or not being willing to invest enough, or being afraid to invest in advertising. Because at the end of the day, when you're selling online, the advertising is all the visibility that you're going to need. I mean, there's different ways to market. You can do SEO, that costs money. You can do paid advertising, that obviously costs money. You can do social media.
You're talking like pay-per-click.
Yeah, exactly. There's all different types of marketing that you can do, but it's going to cost money no matter what you choose to do. And I think that's where a lot of smaller businesses or even brick and mortar owners tend to struggle to make that that change. It's like, well, now I need to start, instead of having a storefront next to my local Stop and Shop or whatever, where someone can pass by my store, I have to pay for the visibility to get people to my store. So that is probably where I would say I see a lot of challenges. A lot of sellers come to us that don't have
Like
Yeah, they don't have enough budget
undercapitalized.
to be like for us to be able to get the return out of it, so we turn them away. And like that is one of the
Right.
big challenges. It's like you need money to spend online to be able to sell products online. It's not just magically going to happen.
Right. There's no magical way because it's when it comes to online selling, you're like it's like you're on a highway, right? But you have to draw the traffic to your highway. Not people just passing by all the time.
And exactly. And I mean, when you go to a search result page on Amazon, there's hundreds of products for some search terms. I mean, for microphone, there might be 200 products, and only 10 to 20 products are showing up in that first page. And of those 10 to 10,
and I'm not saying one.
Yeah. Of those 10 to 20, half of those are probably ads. So that's how you get there. That's how you get the visibility. That's how you get seen.
Right. And if you're 50, I'm not going to buy the 50th one. My perception as a consumer is it must be shit if you're 50.
I think the numbers, I forgot exactly what the breakdown is, but it's something like 90% of the purchases are products on page one, and like 70% are the products in the top three. So it shows like why it's so important to be there at the top of the page, either through an ad, like that's one way to kind of game the system and get there. But obviously the long-term strategy is how do I rank my product on the SEO part to be that number one product?
Right. Sure. Well, I mean, it makes sense, right? Because I'm there to make a purchase and do it quickly and make my decision. I don't want to look through 200 listings and what am I going to do? Read reviews on all of them, and half of them you don't even know if they're accurate. I mean, it's just nuts. So I think really you as a consumer have this in perception that the ranking is like it must be good if it's coming up number one, right? Or top two or three. Which I don't know, maybe that's a false assumption, but
I mean, it is. That's what we do. I mean, we help people get to the top two or three, and there might be products that are better quality. There might be products that are built better, but at the end of the day, what dictates the ranking or the visibility on the platform is how well your product sells. And generally, this is just the reviews play a part in this and kind of are the counterbalance to price point. But generally, price point products that are lower price are going to convert better because people are trying to not spend a ton of money. However, the counterbalance to that is that if you have reviews that are not good, or if your product's not good for that price point, people are eventually going to say, well, why am I going to spend this? Because it's a piece of crap. I'm going to pick the next one. So that's generally from a consumer like psychology standpoint, like how you need to approach it.
Yeah, sure. If you see it's 3 stars and everyone else is 5, you're like, why
exactly
am I doing that? Yeah, exactly. Well, that all makes sense. Well, I think it's interesting though that you were one of these resellers or retailers. Let's call them e-commerce retailers, right? And then you're like, we're not good at this. We're good at the other side of it. How can we make a business out of that? And I think one of the biggest problems with business owners is that they don't really recognize like what their unique selling proposition is or what their unique ability is when it comes to whatever it is they're doing, and saying, you know what, I'm not good at this. I can get someone else to do it. I should focus on the other side. And how can we make that, or can we make it, a business? I'm sure there was a time where you guys were like, well, what are we going to do? We hate this. We're good at this. Okay, well, we'll be consultants. Okay, well, who the hell are we going to talk to, right?
That's exactly what it is. Yeah, you kind of have to find what your strengths are, what your interests are. And even as you grow as an organization and you start hiring more people, it becomes more about specialization. So like what am I the best at and what can I have someone else do? At this point within the company, we have 61 employees at this point. And like when it comes to the day-to-day management of selling accounts on Amazon, I don't do that anymore. Like I have all my employees that do that. So I'm more focused at a higher level on how do I market? How do I get clients? How do I get leads? How do I make the best strategic decisions to help the business go forward? So it's all about getting to your strengths and specializing or delegating the work that you are not as great at or don't care about as much to other people that are extremely happy to do that, are extremely focused on it.
Right. Yeah. For those people listening, Jeff Bezos does not sweep the floors of the warehouse. Maybe he did one time, but he certainly doesn't do it anymore. But yeah, I mean, that's how an organization runs. Now, are all your employees virtual? I mean, I don't know. There's people walking by you. I don't know if they're your employees or you're in a co-working space or something.
I'm in a co-work, but I do have some employees that work out of here as well. The ones that are walking by are not mine. They're extremely loud, but that's a different story.
Okay. Fine.
But yeah, I mean, the majority are virtual. So we have employees in the U.S., in Mexico, where I live, Costa Rica, Colombia, Brazil, Argentina, Romania, where else? The UK, Thailand, Philippines. So I mean, we're all over the world.
Got it. And how do you find these people? Through like services like Upwork and stuff
LinkedIn,
like that,
Upwork. We post jobs on Indeed, depending on the marketplace. So we find, and a lot of people are referrals as well. So there's a lot of. It's not challenging to find people. It's just knowing like where you need to look.
And good ones. Yeah, I know there's a little bit off the topic, but I find it interesting because I do have some clients who are in technology, they're in web development, they're in digital marketing, whatever, and they have people they work with around the world. So from an accounting management standpoint, how do you manage that? You can't just like call a payroll company in the United States and say, "Oh, put all these people on payroll." How do you manage it? You have to file taxes in like all these different countries.
It's one of the challenging things, and depending on the country and depending on the number of employees there's different options. So, for example, like in Mexico, we have like a PEO essentially that hires people. Exactly. In other marketplaces or other countries, I should say, where we only have one employee, we either just pay them as a subcontractor or we find other like PEO options where we can just place the employee with them and then they handle the payroll and whatever else. So that's more or less how we handle it. It's not there are more companies now that are waking up to this and that are offering the ability to do it across multiple countries, which makes a ton of sense. And it simplifies the ability as the business owner to actually make the payroll payments because you're only paying one company and then they're distributing the money to whatever marketplaces or whatever country it needs to go to. But yeah, I mean, there's different options for dealing with it. Subcontractors is like.
But you're a U.S. based company, U.S. taxpayer.
Yep, we're a U.S. company.
Where's your headquarters?
Connecticut.
Got it. Okay, so it all works out of there. So if you're paying a guy, a subcontractor in Argentina, you pay him. He worry about his taxes. You take a deduction, and you worry about your taxes.
That's more or less how everything's handled.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, well, look, all that stuff's opening up now, right? The states are getting onto that. The feds are getting onto that. Like, what do we do with this? Even just in the United States, remember the guy, you have 50 employees. They're all in 40 states. What do? Do you have to? Depends on the state, by the way. Whether you have to file with the state or not, payroll taxes and things like that. And those will change too.
I mean, it's incredibly complex.
Look at the challenges.
Yeah, it's in the U.S. especially because of all the states and different regulatory rules in each state. It's incredibly complex. Versus when you move,
do you have to use a national accounting firm that's got offices around and knows all the different states?
We use a smaller regional one. I mean that's. When you get to a certain level of complexity, you are going to need someone like a Deloitte. How things come full circle, but
yeah, because you're dealing with other countries. Yeah. I know. Well, you have to because absolutely. All right, Mike. Any last parting words or thoughts or recommendations? If we could put some of those links in the show notes to some of the resources, that would be helpful. You can send them to me after the show.
I think.
But anything else? You going surfing today? What are you doing?
No, unfortunately not. I'm going to be on phone calls and meetings all day. But no, what I would say is, and this is kind of my general advice when it comes to being an entrepreneur in general, is, it comes from, so I think it's Richard Branson, is that his saying is the harder I work, the luckier I get. And we're talking about being accidental or having luck happen to us. It's about preparation. Right. You put yourself, you learn a skill, you be great at the skill, you find the opportunities that come your way, and then you take advantage of when that opportunity comes. That's taking advantage of luck. That's being lucky.
Right. Yeah, lucky doesn't happen out of the air. I always say if you want to get hit, you got to play in traffic. Doesn't mean you will get hit, but it certainly increases your chance.
Yeah, that makes sense. Right? But yeah.
So, yeah. All right, let's go to the closing credits. Stick around, and then we'll wrap things up, okay? Mike, I can't thank you enough for getting up.
Thanks for having me, Mitch. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Accidental Entrepreneur. Opening and closing music written and performed by Howie Moscovich and made to order music. For information about Howie and his music services, please follow the link in our show notes. If you like the podcast, please tell others about us. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, on Amazon Music, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and most of the other podcast directories. If you like what you hear, please leave us a 5-star review and feel free to share our episodes on social media. If you have any questions or comments, ideas for the show, or you'd even like to appear as a guest, reach out to us by email at info@beinackerlaw.com.
The Accidental Entrepreneur is hosted by Mitch Beinacker and produced by Beinacker Law. If you'd like to learn more about our business and legal services, you can find us on social media or visit our website at beinackerlaw.com. Thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe to our feed to be notified of all future episodes.